חבר'ה, אני ביקשתי להתפזר, אתם עומדים צפוף, אני מבקש אחורה.
This makeshift medical center is vaccinating more than 1,000 people a day. It's part of the Prime Minister's push to make Israel, which has had 4,000 deaths from COVID-19, a world leader in the race for vaccinations. By the end of March, this campaign aims to get every Israeli over 16 their 2 injections.
האם התחסנת בשבועיים האחרונים עכשיו באיזה חיסון אחר? לא. האם את חולת קורונה? לא. אז בואי נחסן. איזה יד את רוצה? יפה מאוד. קירה קטנה? יופי. סיימנו.
It's a big operation, but we are very excited. From Sunday, we are start to get the second vaccine. So now we are at the end of the first. So this is why this is exciting. Like at the end of the day, they want to get a vaccine and to get back to normal life.
At the center of the vaccination campaign is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's personally greeting shipments as they arrive.
אנחנו הולכים לעשות את זה יחד בהצלחה אדירה. נהיה המדינה הראשונה בעולם שיוצאת מהקורונה הבריאותית, מהקורונה הכלכלית, ונחזור חזרה לחיים.
Netanyahu paid a premium price to secure regular plane loads of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. He's also agreed to give data back to Pfizer on how the vaccines are working. And that might be because at the end of March, Israel will hold its 4th election in 3 years. A successful vaccination campaign will give him momentum, while also distracting from the corruption trial he's facing.
Netanyahu's policy has been, first of all, at large, to be the corona czar. He is taking care of the pandemic. It's his operation, and it's his goal to take Israel and to lead Israel out of this crisis, bolsters Netanyahu's popularity in a time where he is suffering and he's under a lot of challenges. So I think that the vaccination operation and his policy, they kind of stop the drain of the mandates and the losing of support. And it gives him a basis to rebuild his campaign.
But Israel's success story doesn't extend to the West Bank or Gaza, the Palestinian territories it controls. Hospitals are overloaded, but the Israeli government's vaccines aren't being distributed to the 5 million people who live here. Israel says the Palestinian Authority, which governs the Palestinian territories, is responsible for the health care of its people, under a peace deal drawn up nearly 30 years ago. But that peace deal was never fully implemented, and though their government hasn't asked for it, many Palestinians say Israel should help.
There is responsibility, international responsibility for Israel, because Israel is the occupying power. So Israel has a responsibility concerning the Palestinian population in the occupied Palestinian territories. But until this moment, we didn't receive anything from Israel regarding the vaccines.
Some shipments of the vaccine did reach the West Bank, though. The shots going to Israeli settlers like David Hively.
The Palestinians have their own government, which is the Palestinian Authority, who has responsibility for their well-being. If Israel decides to dissolve the Palestinian Authority and assume responsibility, then of course Israel should give vaccinations to all of the residents.
The Palestinian Authority has ordered the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, but so far only a small amount has arrived. And it's unclear when there will be enough to go around. Arif Shafiq Najjar also lives in the hills of the West Bank and says the reluctance of Israel to share the vaccine with Palestinians is another chapter in decades of unequal treatment.
احنا دائما مدام شعب فلسطين هون في الضفه الغربيه احنا نكون محتلين من قبل الحكم العسكري. احنا ما بيعاملونا معامله زي ما بيعاملوا المستوطنين تبع هون موجودين عندنا. احنا يعني زي ناس زي عبيد بعتبرنا هنا. المستوطن له معامله خاصه غير شكل بالمره غير شكل بعملوهم في المرض، في المعامله، في السكن. عندهم صحة المستوطن أحسن من صحة كل الشعب الفلسطيني.
I think Israel recognized the importance of the vaccine as a tool to control the pandemic, and I know that the government has made a lot of efforts to get more vaccines into Israel, and the primary healthcare system in Israel, which is very well developed, gathered together and operated this project. Maybe because of this high transmissibility of the new mutations, the new variants, we will need to get a higher percentage of the population, like 90%, in order to get herd immunity.
This factory in the Israeli settlement of Ariel makes parts for Israeli military rockets, bombs, and warplanes. Of the 120 staff here, 90 are Palestinian. But so far, only the Israelis are getting vaccinations.
وعدونا في أقرب وقت فلسطين إنهم يجيبوا المضاد وإن شاء الله خلال أسبوع أسبوعين بيغدا في للجميع مضاد ومنيح للجميع هذا لإلنا ولإلهم الجميع.
The company has introduced technology to try and contain the virus and stop it from spreading among its workforce.
بتساعدنا كل يوم الصبح نفحص حرارة إذا في مشكلة في حدا مع كورونا حدا مع شيء بنعرف جمعياتنا.
We have a lot of interaction between the Israeli guys and the Palestinians. Also in Israel, they work in the building or many other, and also here in this area, they work, only in this area, there is more than 2,000 people that work together with the Israeli guys. So it's double interest that we will give them the injection, that they will be without corona.